All right, hello and welcome to today's class on Docusign 201. My name is Leah with Scott Leroy Marketing. And in today's video, today's training is an add-on training to Docusign 101. So if you have not yet watched the Docusign 101 class, make sure to go to slmtraining.com to go ahead and watch the Docusign 101 class, because I will not be going over necessarily the basics of Docusign today. In this class, I assume that you have the basics of Docusign down, and I will be showing you next level tips and tricks in Docusign to help take your Docusign experience to the next level, to help make you a little more efficient and effective in the Docusign system. But again, this class is not for Docusign 101, so if you do not have your Docusign account set up quite yet, feel free to email support@scottleroymarketing.com. We can help you set that up. And then you can also watch the Docusign 101 training. I actually just taught that last Thursday. So it's a brand new class on slmtraining.com. Okay. So first thing we need to do, we just need to do a slight amount of housekeeping. We need to make sure Docusign is linked with Command properly so that we can utilize the systems together. So in order to do that, if you could go ahead and go to agent.kw.com to log in to Command. Again, that's agent.kw.com to go ahead and log into KW Command. Now, if you log in and you have any issues with the password, first of all, I feel you. Okay, I have 9 million passwords for everything too. You will have an option to click Forgot Password, or if you have any trouble resetting your password, shoot us an email, support@scottleroymarketing.com, and we can help you with that. We can help you reset the password so that you can participate in class. All right, guys, so first where we need to go is actually up to your name on the very top right. So this is just something really basic, but it is integral to you being able to use Docusign with Command. So let's just make sure it's set up properly. Click on your name on the top right of Command. And again, we go to agent.kw.com to log into Command. We're clicking our name on the top right of Command and then Settings from that dropdown. And that will take you on over to any connected apps that you have linked up to Command, right? So you can link up additional apps to Command to increase the functionality of your Command account, right? So for this class, we really need to have Docusign linked up. So your connected apps will be at the top of this list. So you might have to scroll slightly, all right? But let's go ahead and try to find Docusign from that list. Ideally, we want it to be at the top here with the connected status. Right, if you scroll down and you are seeing Docusign lower and it is not yet connected, you can go ahead and connect that up. However, if it gives you any issues, just shoot us an email and we can do that for you. It can be a little fickle. And at this point, I'm sending out the notes for today's class, and it will have steps on how to do that as well. So in the chat, I put a link to notes that I'll be referencing in today's class, and I'll pull this on my screen. I have 2 screens. I'll pull this on my screen so I can just show you guys what I sent over if you want to grab it later. I love this little guide. So on here, I just tried to centralize all of the notes and shorter 10-minute tip videos, right? Because this, of course, will cover all of the next level tips in Docusign, but I try to break them up into 10-minute training videos as well, so you can watch those as you're actually going along with your transaction. So the quick tip videos will be at the bottom. This is anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, okay? And on the top here are your written notes. And I just want to point out the Docusign steps right here, just in case you need this. This is what I really follow in the Docusign 101 class. But in case you need this, I love the very top link for Docusign steps. I'm just going to pull it up so you can see it. It tells you steps 1 through 10, how to start and manage a transaction in Command with Docusign. Okay, so again, that was the very top link, and this is pretty much what I go through in the Docusign 101 class. So if you haven't taken that class, I would highly suggest it. I just wanted to let you know it is here, and this is also a short video that shows you how to link Docusign to Command, just in case you need that. Okay, and I'll be referencing this tip guide and notes throughout the class, so I wanted to go ahead and send it out so you guys had it, so I can reference it and tell you, which tips apply to which part of class to help out. All right, guys, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get logged into Docusign. Now, whenever you start a transaction in Command, right? I'm not going to do this part since it is a Docusign 201 class. But if you're taking notes on today's class, I'll point out the noteworthy moments, and this is one of them. If you are starting a transaction in Command, you have to do it in the steps that I sent out in that email or in that link just a second ago that I was just pulling up. You have to do it in these steps when you start the transaction in Command. All that's saying is you have to add the contact first to your Command account, create the opportunity, and then click Start a Transaction from there to create your Docusign room. And let's go through that. I'm not going to create a new opportunity today, but let me show you the best way to access Docusign from your Command account, right? And kind of loosely take you through those steps. So the first thing we always need to do when starting a transaction in Command, like you guys probably know, is adding our contact in. So if your contact has not been added to your Command database first, that would always be the first step. You would do that by clicking the contacts icon on the left-hand side menu of Command right here to go ahead and add your contact in immediately. Okay, so again, your contact has to be in Command first in order to create a transaction or an opportunity from that. All right, so once you've added your contact in, okay, it will allow us to create an opportunity. And you can create an opportunity in a couple different ways, okay? You can do it from the contact record, but I'm going to go on over to the opportunity section of Command, if you'd like to follow me. I am clicking on the handshake icon on the left-hand side menu, and this is the primary section that integrates with Docusign. So I'm clicking on the handshake icon on the left-hand side to access our opportunity pipeline, right? And this will show you any opportunities. So if you're wondering, what they're using as the term opportunity, it's a good question. I had the same question, and it's pretty much just as corny as it sounds, right? An opportunity would be anytime you have an opportunity for a closing or an opportunity for a sale. So these pipelines right here go above and beyond just contract to close and help you take care of your transactions all the way from lead to close. And I do have an opportunities class that goes over customizing the pipelines to make it for your business. So if you're interested in using that fully, feel free to check out Opportunities 101. However, for today's class, I'm simply going to go ahead and open one of my opportunity phases. So I'm going to navigate to my opportunity that I'll be using for today's class. So up to you how you want to do that. You can find your opportunity under all opportunities, on your pipeline directly, like I'm going to do, or from the contacts in your Command. You'll have their opportunities there. So however you would like to navigate to your opportunity, feel free. Now I'm simply going to click on the opportunity name to open that. Okay, so I'm simply clicking on the opportunity name to open that. Okay, so what we're focusing on now is how to go about getting into Docusign. So best practice, especially when you are first starting the transaction, you would need to start your Docusign room from the Documents tab of your opportunity. And I'll explain this further, why this is so important. Okay, so when you click on the Documents tab of your opportunity, if you have not yet started a Docusign room, it will say Start a Transaction right here on the right-hand side. However, if you've already started a Docusign room, it'll change that to Go to Transaction like it has in my account. Now, the reason it is so important, I just want to harp on this a little bit. The reason it is so vitally important that you start your transaction in Command, right, by adding the contact in first, second, creating the opportunity, and third, clicking Start a Transaction from here to actually create that Docusign room. The reason that's so important is it will make your opportunity and your Docusign room link together. So as long as you are clicking Start a Transaction from your opportunity to create the Docusign room, that's all you have to do to link your opportunity and Docusign room. It's extremely beneficial to have the two linked because it will allow you to easily pull all of your executed forms, so all of your fully signed forms, into your Command opportunity. Right, because the Command opportunity in the Documents section, this is where we go to submit our signed paperwork for compliance review to the office. Okay, so I'm going to say that again. So the documents section of your opportunity is where we go to submit your signed paperwork and submit that to your office for compliance review so they can keep you out of real estate jail and cut your commission check. And I'll be showing you actually exactly how to do this after we've gone into Docusign. So hold tight on questions on that. However, I'll show you that firsthand just in a little bit when it actually applies. Okay, so documents section of your opportunity between the agent and your office, right? Whereas if you click to go to your transaction, right, Docusign is where we're going to go to actually access our forms, edit our forms, and send that to our client for electronic signature. So Docusign is being used between the agent and your client. The command opportunity here is being used between the agent and the office to submit your signed paperwork. And I'll expand on that to hopefully make more sense of that. But when that clicked for me, it helped me in the understanding of how the two systems work together. So I'll try and explain that further as we go along. Good question, Allison. So a question just came in the Zoom chat. When do we use sync transaction? Okay, and this button is not there originally. So if you're just starting your Docusign room here, you won't see this button at first. Okay, this only pops up after you start your transaction. Okay, and what it does is it will update the information that autofills into Docusign. So automatically, the property information and client information will all pull from your opportunity details section into Docusign, and it will autofill on all of your forms. And you'll see that because we're about to click into Docusign. Right? If you make any changes though to the details, like if there's a change in the property address or if your client gets a new email, whatever the case may be, if anything changes and you want to update that information that's autofilling in Docusign, that's when you would need to click sync transaction. That will update the info in Docusign that's autofilling onto all of your forms because that does pull from the opportunity detail section. Right, so hopefully that's clear. If you have any other questions on that, just let me know. All right, so let's go ahead and click on go to transaction on the top right here. Or if it says start a transaction, that's okay too. And when you do that, it should take you into Docusign or prompt you to select .loop or Docusign. And we do need to log into Docusign the first time each day. So Docusign is another one of those logins you will need to actually remember. It makes you sign in the first time each day for security reasons. It makes sense. You know, these are very secure forms and paperwork here. However, it's a pain to have another password to remember. But just know this is one that you'll need to jot down in wherever you keep your passwords. I personally just found out that the notes on my iPhone are face protected or Face ID protected. So I thought that was a pretty cool, secure way to store my passwords. All right. Yeah, no problem, Allison. All right, guys. So now that we are in Docusign, if you're still logging in, take your time. Okay, feel free to. I'm going to talk about this Docusign room a little bit, so you'll have time to log in. All right. So when you log into Docusign, right, it created a Docusign room based on the name of my opportunity. So what I'm going to show you first, now that we're in Docusign and we're getting up to all those next level tips, I'm very excited to actually show you guys a brand new template option that just launched. KW launched this, I want to say in the last 3 weeks, maybe a month. It's pretty recent, that you can now create templates from your board forms. So those interactive board forms that you can just start typing in, you can now create templates from those to use in all future transactions. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. Okay, but first I'm just going to quickly go over adding forms to your Docusign room here because I know we get a lot of questions on that even in the 201 class. So before we dive into creating templates from these forms, let's make sure your forms are in your Docusign account and talk about how to get them in there if not. All right, so first of all, I'm in the Documents section of my Docusign room. So make sure you're in Docusign rooms. And we are in the Documents tab. Clicking the Add button on the top right. Okay, so in the Documents tab, in Docusign, we're clicking Add on the top right. And this will give you some options to add your forms. So the two I want to talk about right now are Docusign Forms and Zip Forms. All right, for Docusign Forms, that will be all of your interactive forms. So I'll be saying the word interactive forms a few times throughout this class. And what that means is those are the forms that you can just open up and start typing in. I'll show you one so you can see it. But any form you can open and start typing in, that will be your interactive board forms. So this is where you'll actually go to access that. Okay, so that add option and then Docusign Forms. Let's check to see if your forms are already in there. Because since the next logical question is, if my forms aren't in there, how do I get them, right? And we actually have a spreadsheet that tries to keep up with how all the different states get access to their forms. It varies depending on your state or your MLS board. So feel free to shoot us an email if you're not sure, and we can look into this, but let's dive in and see if your forms are already in there. Okay. Before I do this though, I just want to note that if you are a California agent, typically you'll use Zip Forms to access your forms, okay? And you would need your Zip Forms account linked up in your Docusign preferences. All right, so I'm clicking Add on the top right, selecting Docusign Forms here. All right, if your screen looks like mine and you're looking at this pop-up, great, hold tight. If you're instead getting another pop-up that says something like validate your NERDS ID against an AR, there's a little blue link that says to skip that for now, and I'll show you how to go back and add that. It just depends on your area. So I want to show you first how to check your account to see if you already have the forms, because some areas like North Carolina and Colorado, from what I've seen, automatically will have some forms in your account. Right? However, other states like South Carolina, Texas, New Jersey, just to name a few that was off the top of my head, will require NERDS ID, your NERDS ID to link your form. So I'll show you how to do both of those, but let's check to see if your forms are already in your account. So if you're not seeing this pop up, make sure to click the blue link that says to skip, the one you're on. And then from here, this is how we access our forms. And this is really important because you'll be seeing this a lot. Okay, so depending on what you select in the first dropdown will control what you see in the second dropdown menu. So if I keep the library option selected, I will then see my form libraries for my MLS and my association. If I change the first dropdown to instead see my groups, that will change the second dropdown to show any groups of forms that my office has set up for me. Okay, so this is set up by your office staff. There's currently not a way for agents to group forms quite yet, but I'm thinking that's where KW is going with this. All right. However, right now, only your office staff can create these groups. So if you don't have groups in there, there's nothing wrong with your account. Your office just hasn't set that up quite yet. So you can go ahead and use either option here, guys. Play around, click around. You know, it takes a little bit of practice on how to find your forms and the organization and so forth. Primary thing here, I want you to check to see if your forms are even in here. Okay. If they are, you can go ahead and click the check dots to the left of any of the form names and click Add to pull that into your room right away. Okay, so if your forms are in here already, if you could just pause for 1 second, it'll only take me a minute to show those of you who do not have forms how we can go about getting access to those. So if you do not have forms presently in your account, again, this varies depending on your state and board. But if you click on your headshot or initials and then a circle on the top right, and click on Preferences from that dropdown, so Preferences, you might want to jot this down as well. So headshot on the top right or initials in a circle, Preferences, and then Integrations is what we're going to. So integrations on the left-hand side in blue. Okay, for any California agents, this is where you'll go to link up your Zip Forms username and password. So you can go ahead and put that in right here and click to save the changes to link up Zip Forms right away. All right, for other agents, and again, just to try to name some off the top of my head that require NERDS ID, right? South Carolina forms, Texas, I really should have read the list in more detail before I started today's class. New Jersey, I believe, does. We do have them all written down on a spreadsheet. So if you're unsure on how you get access to your forms, first of all, skim this nice long association list that is not alphabetized, but feel free to skim this to see if your association is here, or you can just shoot us an email, support@scottlavorymarketing.com. We'll check our notes or even check with your office staff to help you get your forms linked up. Okay, but those are the primary ways to get that linked. All right, so I'm going to now go back to my Docusign room. Actually, yeah. So I'm going to my Docusign room. And I can do that in a couple different ways, right? You can either click your dashboard on the top, and that will take you back to your 5 most recently used rooms. Or you can click on the rooms option as well, and that'll take you to all your rooms and allow you to search through them. So you can do either one just to help you guys get used to the navigation. Okay, but what's on next for today's agenda is I'm going to show you how to create templates from interactive forms. There's that word again. All right, so since I already have an interactive form in my account, I'm just going to open it so I can show you what an interactive form means before we start creating templates from them. So I'm opening this, and it will be typable. So there will be all the text fields automatically added in, right, like this. The information is auto-filling over from my command opportunity. If I need to make any edits, I simply click to start editing, right? And just so you guys are not alarmed, if you used .loop in the past, you probably used the initial or signature boxes popping up at this point. Don't be alarmed, they do display automatically. So initial and signature boxes do display automatically on interactive forms, right? Interactive forms mean I can just fill in them, start typing in them. So these signature fields will automatically display after you add the form to an envelope and add your recipients. And I'll of course show you that in just a minute here. All right, but this is what I mean by an interactive form. So super new feature, it allows you to create templates from these interactive forms. So the idea is then, next transaction, you can go ahead and bring in that templated form with a lot of the pre-filled info to save you a lot of time in the next transactions. So let's take a look at how we would set that up to make even further sense of it. So for access to templates and creating and editing your templates, you'll go to the My Docs section on the very top of your Docusign account. So I'm clicking on My Docs on the very top white toolbar. From here, we're clicking on Form Templates. All right, Form Templates. So from here, yours will probably be blank unless you've played with this at all. But on the top right, you'll see the option to create form template. And these next few steps should look slightly familiar since we just did this, right? So we're grabbing same concept, either the form from our library or our group. So wherever you would go to navigate to grab that form. So whether it's, under your groups or in your library, right, similar to what we just did in the room, let's go ahead and navigate to locate that form. And if you do not have forms in your account quite yet, no worries, feel free to just watch on my screen. It will still be very beneficial. And we'll click Use. All right, so once I click to pull that in, the idea of what I'm doing right here, just to make sure that's clear, is I can type in all the information that would most of the time be on the form for an average, listing agreement or whatever the form is that you're editing. So all the information will autofill on the form when you pull the template into your Docusign room. And if you create this template, you can go ahead and add in information that again would be on most every listing agreement, right? Then when you pull that into your room for that transaction, you can absolutely edit this. So let's say, you have gone through and created this template, but for this transaction coming up, there's one slight change that needs to be made, no problem at all, right? You can pull this template in, make that one small change, and still a bulk of the work has been done for you. So let's take a look. I'm going to actually show you how to do this to, again, make more sense of it. So I know your form will look different than mine, but depending on your form and what is at the top here, the client's information and your brokerage information, like your brokerage name, Keller Williams, Realty, whatever it may be, will autofill on the form. So you don't have to fill in your brokerage name or the client's information, as again, that info autofills when you pull it into your Docusign room. So the goal here of this template is let's scroll to some of the fields that would be the same for most every listing agreement. Okay, so let's say, for example, I tend to write NA in a lot of fields on certain forms, right? So instead, I'm going to go ahead and pop those in. Okay, another section that you could do, and again, I know this is a North Carolina form, but the concept will still be the same for you guys. Okay, you can create several versions of this template. So if you want to go ahead and create, let's say, a template for cash deals, we could go ahead and select all the information for, you know, cash deals, whatever the case may be. And again, you're trying to put in information that would in general be on the listing agreement for all transactions, but you can change this, absolutely. Okay, but that's the idea behind the time saving here. So once I've gone through and filled out all of the fields that, again, I want to populate when I pull that in for all future transactions, I can go ahead and name that on the top by clicking on the pencil icon on the top left. So let's say this one is for cash deals. I'll name that cash deals. Spelling it correctly would be good too. And then I'll save and close. Oh, wait, sorry, I forgot. There's a check mark at the top that you have to save the name. I always forget that little check mark. So you can save the name on the top and then save and close. All right, and I'm going to show you how to actually apply the template now that we've created it, but a couple other things here. So again, like I mentioned, if you want to make the same form template for a cash deal and a finance deal, a helpful tool, if you click on the down arrow on the far right, you can select the copy option, which would make a complete exact copy of that template. And then you could go through and just make changes to, you know, the cash versus finance information on the field, and then save the new template for finance deals. Okay, so you can save multiple versions of the template for different situations that the transaction might have. Just a heads up, these templates are not yet shareable. All right, so if you're on a team or just want to share these, there is not a feature to share this quite yet. It would need to be created in each agent's account. However, that would be a good thing to add to ideas.kw.com. All right, guys. So let's take a look at now how we would apply the template that we have created. It's shockingly easy. When I went through this, I was just so shocked how easy it was and how great this feature works. So I am very excited about it. I hope you guys use it. But now I'm going to go back to my Docusign room to actually apply that template. So again, I can click on the dashboard option on the top or rooms. We're just navigating back to the Docusign room that we've been working on. Okay, so all we're doing is we're navigating back to our Docusign room to the Documents section. When you open your room, it'll take you to details. So make sure you click on the Documents tab. And now to apply that template, right, you would have to add that form to your Docusign room first. Okay, so the process is you would add the Docusign form first, a blank copy to your room, and then it will allow you to apply the template. So again, you'll have to add the form by clicking Add Docusign Forms. Then once you right click on it, it's not the right form. Yeah. When you right click, it will give you the option to apply the template as long as it's the same exact form. It might not be the right form here. I'll show you guys. So again, as long as it's the same exact form as you have created the template, it will give you this option to apply form template right here. So I right clicked on the form, apply form template, and then it will give me the option for any templates I have for that specific form only. So if I want to apply for a cash or the finance deal, I can go ahead and click that and apply. And just like magic, if I click on the form, it would then show me all of the changes that I added in from the template. And since it's in my Docusign room, it is auto-filling from the details tab of the opportunity. So your client's info will autofill, your brokerage info will autofill on here, and along with all the templated data that we put in. I have a Mac too, Bobby. Right click on a Mac is 2 fingers. I mean, you can change it in your settings if that doesn't work for you, but typically 2 fingers on a Mac will right click. All right, guys, so we're going to change tips real quick, but I'm going to send out my email address too. I see some questions for that. If it's anything about your account specifically, I'm seeing your questions, guys, and I'm trying to hit those as I go through class. So don't worry, I am going to talk about those. However, if it's something specific with your account, I just put my email address in the chat, support@scottleroymarketing.com. I'd be happy to take a look at your account specifically if anything's going weird, or if you have run into any obstacles. I've probably run into them myself. Just make sure you put attention Leah in the subject line, and that will come straight to me. I help with all Docusign opportunities issues, so I'm your girl. Yes, and today's class is being recorded and will be found on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Scott Leroy Marketing. It's also on our training, slmtraining.com. But just in case you guys want it, I like to have our YouTube channel also bookmarked because it will show all of the brand new classes that we just taught this week first. So I love that. So I can always stay on top of tips, brand new tip videos, because when we see a new feature launch, we create a tip video right away. All right, guys. So now let's switch gears slightly. Let's talk about, so I'm going to teach you guys how to alert your transaction coordinator, or maybe your mortgage provider or an admin when you have forms signed, okay? So you can watch on my screen or you can follow along, either way. What I'm going to show you now is how to add a form to an envelope, okay, which you guys should be semi-comfortable with from the Docusign 101 class. But in today's class, I'm going to show you an additional tip to add either an admin, transaction coordinator, mortgage provider to be notified after the form has been fully signed. Okay, this tip can also be used to control the order that the form is being sent in. So let's take a look. So first thing, I'm going to make sure you're in your Docusign room, and we're actually going to go to the envelopes tab of your Docusign room. Let me go to my other room. Okay, so simply open your Docusign room, and we're selecting the envelopes tab. If you're not familiar with envelopes in Docusign, which again, you should be from the Docusign 101 class, but right, think of snail mail here. So envelope, if you are sending a document in the mail, physical mail, what would you do? Grab an envelope, first step. So first step, I'm going to click on new on the top right, grabbing a new envelope. So in the envelopes tab of your room, we're clicking new on the top right. All right, second step in snail mail, we would add the recipients to the envelope. So, oh, I lied, sorry. That was the third step. We will do that next, but you also need to first add the forms to the room. So in the add document into the envelope, we'll go ahead and click that room docs option. So the blue button is what you'll want to click. So we're adding our documents first by clicking room docs. And it will allow you to search any docs that you have in your room. So you can simply click on those forms to pull those in. So I can select multiple and click add selected. And just a heads up, if you are sending multiple forms, you do have the option to click and drag to reorder those forms if you want it to go in a specific order. You can also X out of any forms. All right, so now this is where we're going to go ahead and add the recipient. And whenever you're adding recipients, guys, this dropdown varies slightly depending on the kind of forms you're adding. You always want to select the top option. That's how I remember it. So add recipients, always select the top option, no matter what you see. And then we'll go ahead and add in our clients. So we'll go ahead and select our clients from the dropdown here. And these clients, right, they're automatically in my account because they pulled over from the opportunities. If it's a form you need to sign, you can go ahead and add yourself as well as the listing agent, whatever the case may be, and click Add Selected. All right, so I can see that my clients have been added. And Alan, to answer your question, that's a good question. So Alan's question is, should the forms be fully filled in at this point, or can you edit them after this? So kind of both. You can edit it after this. However, when it's a fully interactive form, right, like we've been working on, like you could just start typing in, you will have wanted to completely edit the form when you initially open it. So you would type in the entire form first and then save it before coming to create an envelope. Thank you, Alan, for highlighting that. So again, when you open the form in your Docusign room, you do fill out the form completely, then you'll save that before adding it to the envelope like we did here. Thank you so much. Yeah, I love Friends. All these Friends characters. All right, guys, so this is where the tip comes into play. So yeah, no problem. So on the left-hand side, you'll notice these ones next to your client's names. This is a feature Dotloop didn't have, a feature that I think is pretty cool. So this controls the order that your clients are being sent the form. So this, I mean, you can use this tip in a variety of different ways. What I'll show you as an idea is how you can actually add, if you want your transaction coordinator, admin, or mortgage provider to receive a notification once the form is fully signed, so that can prompt them to do whatever it is they do over there, okay? Let me show you how you would do that. So we'll click on Add Recipient on the bottom. And since we're adding like an outside guest, I guess you could say, we're going to just add them by email address. I'm just adding them by email address because they're an outside guest, right? They're not signing anything. And I'll go ahead and put in, the name of my transaction coordinator or my mortgage provider and the email address. Okay, but we need to make a couple changes here. First of all, we need to change this 1 to a 2. Okay, so that will make it so that this person will not receive the form at all until all parties labeled with a 1 have completed their action. Okay, and this is their action they need to sign. However, with the action for my transaction coordinator, mortgage provider, whatever the case may be, they don't need to sign necessarily. They just need to receive a copy. Okay. So receives a copy is what you'll want to change that to. And since I usually get the question of what the difference between needs to view and receives a copy is at this point, you'll typically want to use the receives a copy. The needs to view option will require this person to view the form before you get the signed form back at all. So just moral of that story is select receives a copy if you're trying to send a notification to whoever that might be. Another way that you could use this, and of course, figure out how to use this in your real estate business. If you're wanting to send, the sellers first and then the buyers the form second, if they don't have representation, you could mark other clients as a 2 and they would not receive the form until the people marked with a 1 have completed their action, have signed. Very cool feature. Let me know if you guys use it and how you use it. But definitely a great thing to add for your notifying your transaction coordinator and so forth. Now, as you can see, I can also X out of any people here as well. So I'll go ahead and do that. And that's all I have to do here. So I'm going to click on next on the top right just to kind of finish up this process for you guys. So I'll click on next on the top right. Yeah, if all those 3 clients have a 1, they would all get it at the exact same time. When I click send, it will send out an email simultaneously to all parties marked with a 1. So now that the form is in the envelope, you do not have to do anything at this point, okay? Since we started with an interactive form, right? Again, a form we could just start typing in. We already did all the editing, right? It's way easier when you first open the form to completely fill out the form because you can just type in the text boxes. So at this point, in theory, you won't need to do anything when you're working with an interactive form. You do have the ability to do something with the form using the fields on the left-hand side though, and I'll get deeper into this. Okay, so hold tight on your questions on these fields. I will show you that. But really, all you have to do on this part is click send on the top right. I always recommend clicking Recipient Preview first to make sure that you set it up properly. It helps me sleep at night. So on the top right, if you open this up, you can't, so if you're looking at the Recipient Preview, like I am, excuse me, I can click on the top left to click who I'm viewing this as, which client. I really like to do this and then, select my client and click start, and it will show me exactly what my clients see when they go to sign it. That helps me know I set up the form correctly for them to sign, and they can sign all of the fields that they need to sign. So this is exactly what it looks like for your clients. All right, so if you're looking at the recipient preview with me, I'm going to X out on the top right. And then click send on the top right. Jennifer, good question. Can 2 parties have the same email? Some clients only have 1. I did some digging on this in Docusign because I got this question, and I'm pretty sure I have a tip video on this. So I'll grab that after class on how to make 2 clients use the same email address in Docusign. So if you stick around after class, I'll send that, or if you want to email me, I'll send that to you that way too. All right, guys, so I'm clicking send on the top right. Just to go ahead and finish this up. That would be the last step. Right, and now let's talk about, once the form is sent, how do signatures work in Docusign? How do I view a form once it's been signed? Will I get notifications? Let's talk about some of that. So first of all, if it's a form that you need to sign, at this point, you will be sent an email prompting you to sign, or you can sign it right from the envelope. So if it's a form you need to sign, you can always send that from the envelope directly. Sign that, I mean. So you can always sign it right from here. I know there was a question earlier, if you already have a form in an envelope, can you correct it? That was a question earlier up, sorry, I forget who asked it, but yes, you can, and that's a great question. So if you need to make any edits to a form that has already been sent, or as far as the recipients go, so you can correct the envelope itself. So if you click on correct, it'll go into the envelope and allow you to edit any of this information and edit the signing fields. However, if you're wanting to edit like the information you typed in the interactive field, unfortunately, you would have to do that starting from scratch. Okay. But in theory, you can edit the envelope. So you can correct it here. You can click edit signing fields on the top right to add additional fields as well. And then send that off for signatures. Also from the envelope, I just want to point out there is an option to reshare. Hang on, let me get back in there. Okay. So also from the envelope, just another really important tip here, there is the option to resend it as well. So if your client says they did not receive the form, you do have the option to resend it from here. And let me tell you why this little tip is so important. Whenever you receive a signed form, back to your Docusign room. Okay, so let's say, just like we did, I sent the form out for signatures. I have 2 clients that I need to sign it. One client signs and I get an email notifying me that the client signed. So then I go into my Docusign room. I don't see the form there, okay? The form will not come back signed in your Docusign room until all parties have completed their action. So for example, if you have 2 clients who need to sign, you will not see the signed copy come back to your room once one person has signed. You will only see that once both parties have signed in your Docusign room. And I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. But the reason I bring this up right here is, let's say one person signs and then the other person, whatever the case may be, they're not very tech savvy, they can't find the email, right? They call you up, say they don't know how to Docusign, they haven't seen that email, can you resend it? If you click resend from here, it will only resend it to the parties that have not completed their action, like signed it. So if your client has already signed it, it won't resend it to them. So I thought that was cool. All right, so let's take a look now that we know how to resend it for signatures and how to sign it as the agent. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at what signed forms look like in Docusign, because it is different than .loop if you're using that before. So I'm going to X out on the top right if you were following me. And I'm going to go over to the Documents tab. In theory, you can just watch on my screen unless you have a signed form. Okay, so this is where these icons really come into play. You may have never noticed them before, but let me tell you about what they do. So these icons right here will denote if it is a Docusign interactive form, okay? Remember, the Docusign interactive forms will be the ones you can just start typing in, right? So those Docusign interactive forms will have this blue form icon. Please notice that this icon is the same thing when you click on add on the top right, same icon. Just trying to pull that full circle for you guys. So those are all the forms that you can just start typing in, okay? So this is the original copy of the form that I brought into my Docusign room. I typed in the entire form and I sent it out for signatures. When my clients have both signed it, it will then come back to my Docusign room as a totally separate form, okay? So this is different than .loop. So whenever your clients sign that, it will come back as a totally separate form. It's a PDF actually, copy of the form that will show the signatures on it, and the signatures will be preserved. So the reason it comes back as a PDF is so that the signatures can't be erased. If you had used .loop in the past, you might have seen that pop up. If you tried to make any changes to an executed form, it would tell you, hey, if you make any changes, it will erase all signatures. And then you about had a heart attack and just wanted to X out of everything, right? So that was always alarming in .loop. So the good thing is Docusign does not have that feature. Once your clients have signed it, there's no way to erase the signatures, as it will come back as a fully signed PDF. Okay. So that signed icon, you'll notice a difference in the signed icon versus the form icon. So this is the original copy and this is the signed copy. Now, along with this, you are not, I want to explain something else that we get a big question on. You are not able to pull in more than one copy of a form. And I know I saw a question regarding this in the chat as well. So for example, if you try to pull in a second exclusive right to sell form, let me just show you what it does. All right, it'll be grayed out, not allowing you to pull in the same form. Okay. Now, what Docusign instead wants you to do to handle this, okay? So instead of pulling in a separate copy of the form, what Docusign wants you to do is use the original copy of the form. Remember, the original is always that blue form icon. It wants you to edit the original, and you can completely change it and resend it for signatures, and it will again come back as a second copy signed. So in theory, you could send out one form umpteen times, and it will always come back separate as a totally separate PDF once it's signed. So that is how signed forms will look, and please just don't be alarmed if you're not seeing the signed form until all clients have signed. Okay, that's how Docusign works. All right, so what I'm going to show you now to build on this is how to make edits to a signed form. And this next tip will apply to all signed forms and any PDFs that you bring into your Docusign room. Okay, so let's talk slightly about PDFs. You'll notice that third icon has a PDF icon. That just means it's not editable off default. So if I click on it, I will not be able to start typing, right? Can't start typing, it's a PDF. So let's talk about a scenario when we would want to be able to edit PDFs or sign forms, okay? So let's say the agent on the other side sent you the offer signed by the buyers, and it's in your email, so it's an attachment, it's a PDF. So now you need to send that to your clients for electronic signatures, and because they went to Florida in the middle of a transaction, of course. So to do that, I would go ahead and save the attachment to my computer. So again, if the agent on the other side emails you an offer to purchase, you save it to your computer, right? And then we're coming to add on the top right to add a form from your computer. So you can absolutely add PDFs from your computer. So add on the top right, computer. Just go ahead and search your form or search your computer and double click on the form you want to pull in. And feel free, if you have a PDF on your computer that you want to practice with me, feel free. I'm going to show you how to use all those signing fields and text fields on the left-hand side of the envelope that we saw. All right, so again, this tip will apply to editing signed forms or any PDFs that you pull into Docusign. It'll be the same exact process here. So let's say I want to go ahead and edit this signed form, like make a small change and get the signatures and get the changes signed. So I'm going to go ahead and start an envelope. So I'll do that from the envelopes tab. And of course, there's a couple different ways to create an envelope, so you can do whichever way you prefer. I'll go to the envelopes tab. And then click on New on the top right. So again, I clicked on New on the top right to go ahead and create a new envelope. I'm going to select the Room Docs option again to go ahead and select the form that I want to pull in and send out, whichever one that may be. And click Add Selected. And you can rename all the forms as well to answer your question, Alan. From the Documents tab of your room, you should be able to right-click on your form, and I believe the rename option is there. All right, so we're adding in the form and we're adding in recipients. So just the same way that we did before. I just want a different version. All right, so just the same thing we did before, we're adding recipients. And again, like I mentioned, this dropdown may change slightly, but typically you'll always just want to select the top option. So the first dropdown, you want to go ahead and select for room participants. You do have to add recipients to your envelope in order for it to allow you to edit it in the next step. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my 2 clients here. Click Add Selected. And we're going to go to Next on the top right. Next on the top right. And again, remember, this tip is going to apply for editing PDFs. So if you need to get a PDF signed by your clients, or this will also apply to making any edits to a fully signed form. Of course, there are addendums, that you can use to edit your signed forms as well. So check with your broker on that. I'm just going to show you the ability to allow you to do that. So first of all, remember how I mentioned on the top left, this is where our clients are. And you'll notice that each one of your clients have a corresponding color. So if I select one of those clients, it'll turn all of these fields to that color. Right? So I can see who I'm adding that for. So let's say if it's, a PDF I was sent from the agent on the other side, I probably need to add initial boxes all the way down the form so that my clients can sign it. So I'll go through and I'll click to add the initial box from the left-hand side and click to drop it. Same concept here to add the other client. I do need to make sure that I'm switching to her name so I can add the initial box. Now in actual practice, it's probably faster to go through and add, all the initial boxes for one client and then go through and add all the initial boxes for the other client, right? But that's the idea. You would go to wherever on the form requires initial boxes to go ahead and click to simply lay them. So it's pretty straightforward in laying these. I'll show you a signature field as well, because there is just one little additional thing to know for signature fields, and this would be a noteworthy moment. So if you're adding signature fields manually, like this from the left-hand side, and again, right, all of these initial fields and signature fields will automatically display on the form if it's an interactive form. We just need to add the initial and signature fields manually if it's a PDF or if it's a signed form, which is a PDF, right? So just to let you know, this is not something you have to do every time. This is giving you the ability to edit a PDF. All right, so I'm adding in the signature fields for both clients. What you need to know about adding signature fields is that you need to manually add the date field as well. Okay, so for signature fields only, and this would be a time to jot down the note, because to stay in compliance, obviously, you need the signatures to have dates. I don't think that's just a North Carolina thing, but either way, we do need to add the date signed. This field will fill automatically. So when your client goes to sign, it'll auto-populate the date in. However, just you as the agent, you have to add that date signed field for that to autofill automatically. Okay, so that's just an extra note for signature fields. All right, for text fields. So let's talk about now the scenario that, this is a fully signed form and we just need to make one change. Like, let's say I put my client's name as Tony Stark and it should be Anthony Stark. So let me show you how you can make a small change to a fully signed form and then get those changes signed. All right, so in order, right, I did mention that all of these fields are on the left-hand side, and this is where you'll spend just a vast majority of your time. It's pretty rare I switch to the other options on the gray toolbar on the far left, but let me tell you when that is. So first of all, if you're looking for a strike-through tool, I would write this down because it's super hidden. If you're looking for a strike-through tool to, let's say, strike out something that's incorrect, you would want to click on this pencil icon on the far left gray toolbar. It's the only tool in there, the line tool here. All right, so we'll click on that and I can simply click to drop my line. Okay, so I've crossed out the incorrect info. So now I want to go ahead and add a text box. So I'm going back to the original place, the standard fields. So this is where you, again, spend most of your time. And now let's say I'll add a text box in to write the correct information. Okay, and text boxes is where things get just slightly tricky that you'll need to take some notes if you're adding text boxes. So that's why I want to cover it. So go ahead and click text, line your mouse up where you want it, and click to drop it. Now, any text boxes, they drop pretty small, so you can resize that as long as you're clicked on it. So you'll see settings on the right-hand side, and you can edit this completely as long as you're clicked on it. If you unclick it, it'll go away. So make sure you're clicked on the field, and it will give you the option to resize that by clicking the dots on the corners. All right, and the settings for the text fields are a little, it's something that you guys need to jot down, okay? Because it took me a little bit to figure out, so this is important for you guys. So again, if you're laying a text box on a PDF, first of all, remember how if it's blue, right, or a certain color, it's assigned to your client. So if it is a solid color like it is now, your client will be required to fill that in. And that's might be what you want in some cases, right? If you want them to, if you want to add a text box, for personal property that's conveying or whatever it may be, you may want them to be required to fill that in. However, if this is just a field that I need to fill in as the agent, I'm going to uncheck that it's required. And when I do that, it'll immediately turn the field clear, meaning it's not required for my client. If I want to make sure my client cannot fill it in, I can mark that as read only, especially if you're putting in like a field for your commission rate. Client, you're not changing that. All right, so we can change that read only, and we can unmark it a required field to then allow us to, write in their correct name. So those two settings there are how they were off default. So if you want to save a text field, a custom text field with those settings already applied, you could click Save as Custom Field on the bottom to go ahead and save this. Maybe if you want to name this like the agent field, like this is a field I would fill in as the agent, whatever you'd like to name that. You can see the settings from here, like other things that you can edit or add in for this custom field, including the font and so forth. Just a note, there's not a way to edit the font when you're working on an interactive form or field, but you can from here if you add a text box manually. And click Save. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and save a custom field based on what we just did, right, that will save it right here on the left-hand side. So that's second one down. I've clearly done this once or twice. All right, so that second option down in the gray toolbar is where you access your custom fields. And if you're seeing a bunch of custom fields in here, I think this is okay. All right, but one more thing I need to note, and this is a really big thing that you guys need to write down. There's not a way to save this next setting for text boxes, but the next setting is required for all clients to be able to see the new field. So this collaboration field, so you might have to scroll down slightly on the right side and you'll see the collaboration option. If you want both clients to be able to see the field at all, you have to click this checkbox I found out. Okay, and there's not a way to save that setting that I have seen in the custom field. So this is always something you would have to do manually when you're adding a text box. Again, from what I've seen, if you guys have found out differently, feel free to email me. I would love that. But from what I've seen, anytime you lay a text box, in order for all clients to be able to view it at all, you have to click that Recipients Can Collaborate. Now, this collaboration setting comes in real handy as well, you know, for like a property disclosure, residential property disclosure, whatever it's called for your area. You know, if you want both clients to be able to collaborate and both put in the information about the HVAC or the roof age, you know, you can allow them to collaborate, which is great. All right, but that is a big thing to note if you are laying text fields. And just the final thing we'll do here is, right, typically if you make changes to a signed form, we do need to get those changes signed by all parties. So I'll add in any initial boxes and click send. All right, and please note, if you make any changes at this point, like I did, right, like to text box and strike through initial boxes, I will not see these things on the form in my room until after my clients have signed it. Okay, so when I click send here, if I go back to the original copy of the room, or sorry, the original copy of the form in my room, it will look the same as it did. Okay, it will not show these edits on here until after I've clicked send and the appropriate people have signed the form. Then it will come back as a separate copy in my Docusign room with that signed icon showing all of these changes. So hopefully that's clear. So right now I'm going to go ahead and click send. Right, and I'll send that off to your clients to sign those changes. All right, guys, for the last, if you can stick around for like 5 more minutes, I just want to show you guys a couple new cool things in Command, actually, in your opportunity about the commission request and comparing offers. There's actually an offer comparison you can send to your clients, which is really cool. So that's what I'm going to show you in the last 5 minutes. However, I'll point out the other tip videos that I didn't get to in today's class, so you can watch it after today's class if you'd like to. All right, so let's go ahead. And we're actually switching gears slightly. We are going to go into our command opportunity. I'm just going to show you a couple tools in here before we wrap up today's class. And again, if you can stick around for 5 more minutes, I promise I'll have you out of here. All right, so my command opportunity is open in a separate tab. Okay, so your Docusign account should be open in one tab with a yellow down arrow, and then you should have a separate tab with a red KW logo for your command opportunity. That's where I am. All right, so as I mentioned, right, and if you can't find this tab, no worries, just open command and just go ahead and find your opportunity as you normally would and click on the opportunity name to open that. All right, so from here, what we need to do, right, I mentioned that the command opportunity is being used between the agent and your the agent in your office to be able to submit all your signed paperwork for compliance review so they can make sure you're in compliance, and that's how you get your commission check. So Documents tab of your opportunity is between the agent and your office. Whereas the document section of Docusign that we've been in this whole time, that's where you'll go to access your forms, like access your blank forms, get your forms signed, and send for electronic signature. So Docusign is being used between the agent and your client. Once the forms are signed, we then need to pull the signed forms into our opportunity to submit for compliance review. So how you would do that, you can add a file one at a time on the right-hand side. Oh, and if you're not seeing these checklists at all, I should start there. All right, so from the Documents tab of your opportunity, if you are not seeing a checklist at all, you can go ahead and select the checklist type on the top left here. So it should give you different checklist options if it is not defaulting already. And these checklists are created by your office staff, so it will not look the same as mine, just a heads up. And once you have this checklist added in, please note that simply that. These are not the physical forms right here. These are just simply a checklist of the form names that you are either required to have, so you can note the ones you're required, or the ones that are conditional. If it's a certain situation, then you need that form. The quickest way to attach your forms is by clicking Attach Multiple Files at the top. You can absolutely drag and drop your signed forms here, upload them from your computer. So, you know, if it works in your business better to get your forms hand signed, or let's say your client doesn't trust electronic signatures and you have your forms, you know, in your hand signed, you can scan those to your computer, right? You don't need to use Docusign to get those signed. You do not have to, right? You can get them signed on your appointment, scan it to your computer, and then you would be able to upload all your signed paperwork right from here to submit that for review. However, if you do it the way that KW intended, right, after you send that out for signature in Docusign, you'll want to come in here and select the Docusign option. Now this option will only display if you created your Docusign room by clicking Start a Transaction from here. I remember near the beginning of class, I harped on how important it is to actually start your transaction in Command. This is a big reason why. Okay, it will allow you to easily link up your paperwork. So since I selected the Docusign option, I now have all these drop downs here to be able to select, okay, which one of these are my signed form that applies to this right here, to line that up. And this is only searching my forms from this Docusign room specifically. So once I go ahead and select any forms that I want to pull over to my opportunity, I click Attach. And it will pop those in right here. At that time, you can, don't do this right now, but you can then submit to your MC for review. And just to overview slightly when you want to be submitting to your Market Center for review, okay? First of all, check in with your office staff on when they want you to submit for review. Each office has a slightly different policy. But in general, I just want to give you an idea of when to submit for review. If you're representing the buyer, you'll submit for review twice. Once when you go under contract with all your signed offer paperwork, and a second time when you close. If you're representing the listing, you'll submit to your Market Center for review 3 times. Once when the listing goes live in the MLS with all your listing paperwork, a second time when you go under contract with all the contract paperwork, and a third time when you close with all the closing paperwork. And again, that process varies slightly depending on your Market Center. So listen to your office staff first, but I just wanted to give you an idea of when you want to be clicking this Submit to the MC button right here. Okay. Now, when you do go under contract, let's talk about real quick what you do when you go under contract. So when you go under contract, you will need to submit a commission request. And I'm going to go to a loop that already has one, a loop opportunity that already has one. So in, where did I go with that? All right, so I already have an offer added in here, but whenever you go under contract, you need to add your offer into your opportunity, as well as submit a commission request. All that means, okay, if that sounded like a foreign language, all that means is submitting a commission request is just telling your office how you're getting paid. You know, are you receiving all of that commission amount? Are you splitting it 50-50 with another agent in your office? Are you paying an outside referral? How should they disperse your commission check? Right, so that's what you're adding in right here when we add in new offers, okay? So for example, I would go through the entire process here to add a new offer. Okay, and all it'll do, and I have a tip video I'm gonna share with you guys on how to actually do this. So when you're doing the commission request and offer, you can follow that along. But when you add a new offer right here, it really just prompts you for the offer details, you know, like easy things like the client's names and how much cash versus finance, different things like that. And once you add in the offer, it will then allow you to accept the offer and manage your commission request. Okay, so again, the commission request is submitted whenever you go under contract, telling your office how you're getting paid. And I have a tip video on that. So I'm going to send you that to learn how to do that. What I want to show you though, before I wrap up class right now, I just want to show you that this next feature exists, and then I'll provide you with the steps to do it. Okay, but it's a very cool feature that not a lot of agents use. So what I'm going to show you real quick is if you are in a multiple offer situation, okay, like this situation right here, I had 5 offers come in, especially with how hot listings are right now, you might be running into lots of multiple offer situations. You can actually send your client an offer comparison. So we would go through and add in each new offer, and I know we didn't go into that in detail, but again, I'll give you directions. We would add each new offer individually, and it only takes maybe 5 minutes or less to add an offer in, especially once you get the hang of it. Once you add all the offers in a multiple offer situation, you can actually click the select all option on the top to compare offers. So once you click that checkbox, you'll then have this compare offers option here. So compare offers. Okay, just to show you, again, the point of this right here is to show you that you have this feature, and then I'll hook you up with steps on how to. So right here, this is showing me an offer comparison, okay? So it shows me for each different offer, these are each client that submitted the offer on the listing, right? I can see each of the details of the offer, the cash, finance amount, earnest money, and so forth, right? I can see any summary from the agent, any pros and cons that you've put in as the agent when you put in the offer. Okay? And so to share this with your client, you can click the download option on the top right. It also has the option to email offer comparison. I have not had much luck with that. It does use MailChimp. If you have luck with emailing that out, go for it. However, as a workaround, I've just been downloading this and sending it to my client. So let me show you what it looks like. It's rather cool. So this is what it will look like. You can download this to your computer to share that to your client so that they see, you know, all the different offers going on here. Okay, and so that they can compare it from right here. So I love this feature, really, really helpful for multiple offer situations, because you send them the 10-page offer and tell them, oh yeah, you know, take a look at the differences. You know, that's a little overwhelming. This gives them such a nice view of the differences in the offers, along with, I know, again, I didn't show you this quite yet, but the summary, pros and cons are all things you would put in as the agent. So you can really help guide them through this part and making sense of it as well. Yeah, the offer information is manually put in, and I'll send you, it's pretty easy. Sorry, I ran out of time in class. I have a 10-minute video on how to do that. So I'll pull that over and show you which one it is now. So what would be best if you guys have 10 minutes after class? What I didn't get to is the create a commission request. It's this one right here. That will show you how to add an offer in and submit a commission request. And so it would complement what I just showed you really nicely on how to create that offer comparison. And I actually have a tip video, right here. Wow, look at that. Download or email offer comparison. So these two will work nicely together. So on this tip, guys, just a cool note on this tip sheet that I gave you. If you guys save this in your bookmarks bar, this is a live updated doc. So anytime that there are new Docusign tips, I add to this list. So you'll always get the newest tips coming out straight. And for today's class, I'll highlight the ones that I think would be beneficial for you guys to watch next. If you have some time there, because I didn't get to just a few items, so I'll highlight those. And if you have the time to watch them, you absolutely can. And that will kind of complete this full circle for you. But if I did not get to any of your questions during, oh yeah, here, let me send this to you guys. If I did not get to any of your questions during class, guys, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I am more than happy to help you with your account directly. Let me know what issues you have, and I can take a look at your account specifically. Again, email me at support@scottleroymarketing.com. I'm putting this in the chat too. Marketing.com. And put attention, my name, which is Leah. All right, guys, I'll be sticking around just slightly after class to answer any straggling questions. But for those of you watching recorded, I will include all the notes in the description of this YouTube video. If you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.